But if you're just starting out, like all you need is a way to collect payment and the ability to deliver on the offer. And that's it. There's no use in building a pretty funnel when nobody knows about it.
Most people are told a story from the moment that they grow up to go to school, get a degree, work for a company, save diligently, and retire happy one day. And hopefully everything goes according to plan. Sounds safe, sounds responsible, sounds normal. But here's the truth. The story that keeps people broke is literally that story. A story that is designed to create consumers, not creators. It teaches people to live according to someone else's design, to follow a path that guarantees compliance, not wealth, not freedom, not fulfillment. Bronnie Ware wrote a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And the number one regret that people share as she helps people transition as they're passing away. And the number one regret is that people wish that they lived true to themselves, a life true to themselves, not a life according to what others expected of them. The second top regret is that people wish that they did not work so hard, that they did not, that they regretted essentially trading their time for a paycheck, right? And that's why today this conversation matters. My guest is a very special guest. We're talking about not just an entrepreneur, but a teen entrepreneur. I met Malcolm. I think he was probably maybe 16 years old a few years ago at a networking event, a marketing and sales event called Unlock the Secrets in Arizona. Met him and his family, and totally saw him being one of the leaders in that group. And it was a pretty large size event, about 1,000 people in there. And he was leading, a group of young teens in a mastermind. And right away, I understood that, leadership is what is needed for anybody to really build wealth in this world. And he's definitely one of them. So we are going to be unpacking a lot today. Malcolm, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Where are you tuning in from, by the way?
I'm in Roseburg, Oregon. So I don't know where are you at?
I am actually in Malaysia right now.
Oh wow.
We just got done doing this what it feels like one of our mutual friends, Justin Benton, always talks about. You guys should get that, the T-shirt with the dates and kind of like this tour, because you guys go so many places. But yeah, we have been essentially 7 countries now in the last 7 weeks. We've gone to a country every single week, so it's pretty insane. But we're back home in Malaysia now. We're gonna spend the next 3 weeks here before we go back to the US. We're kind of doing a tour right now. So yeah.
Nice.
But you guys get a chance to do a lot of that as well, and that's why I really even asked that question, where you guys are actually at. So where did you just come from just most recently?
I think, most recently it was in Illinois. We just did our 3rd Teen Mastermind live event there. So that was our 3rd one. We're going to be in Boise for the next one in mid-August. We were in Scottsdale, Arizona for the 2nd one. And of course, we did the 1st one here at home. And I'll be doing it here at home again for my 20th birthday as kind of our final celebration of me being a teen in the Teen Mastermind, and kind of like a graduation farewell kind of thing. I'll always be part of it, but 20 isn't technically teen anymore.
Yeah. So did you guys hear that? He's going to be turning 20. He's not going to be a teenager anymore. He's transitioning. But you started when you were what, 16 or even
I think
before
17.
that, I think, right?
In 2024, it's 17.
17. Got it. Got it. Got it. What was your first offer? What was your guys' first
Um,
offer?
well, first I was a funnel builder, and I think it was probably the year prior. Whenever FHL, like the year before FHL 9, um, I wanted to like I was hearing about this ClickFunnels stuff, and we were going to Russell's events and all that. Um, but I didn't know how to actually use the software, and so my parents thought it was a good idea for me to learn the software because they were busy with running the dojo and running that business, and so I could probably help with some of the online stuff. And I mean, building funnels with the software is honestly like a video game. And I think so many of the other funnel builders, I have like, there's a few of the teens that are my age that I've also gone through that path. And they're like, yeah, building the funnels is just like a game, except you make money from it. And so that was the first thing I did, was become a funnel builder and build sales funnels and websites and membership sites and all that kind of stuff for other businesses. And then after that, I knew that wasn't going to be the main thing. I wanted to go into that too. My dad specifically wanted me to go into funnel building so I could learn about sales and marketing, arguably the two most important skills that any entrepreneur should have, because they often go the wrong way around. They have the idea first and realize, oh, I have no idea how to get this in front of people. I have no idea how to sell it. We'll learn those skills first, and then an idea will come along later. So that's how he wanted me to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna revisit that marketing and sales part of it for sure. That was really smart of your dad, obviously. So, Malcolm, I know that knowing you now, you're coaching, you're teaching, you're training, you're masterminding with young teens now because you've been able to do it, right? You've been able to become a teen entrepreneur and a successful one at that. And one of the things that I've seen you do was really kind of teach young teens to think untraditionally, right? You challenge them to to break from the norm, right? What we call the norm, or out of
Mm-hmm.
the matrix, right?
Yes.
The school, degree, work, save, retire path,
Yep.
um, and you really help them monetize their mastery. So again, let's talk about that. Um, I believe, and I know that you do as well, because I've seen you say this, that when people don't see themselves as valuable, meaning that there's things that they know, there's things that they love, there's things that God has put superpowers, skills, gifts within them, and they don't see that, then their only offer is to really trade their time for money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when somebody sees that they've mastered something and they see themselves as valuable, then they create an offer, right? And their offer, they move away from trading time for money to essentially creating value, creating an offer, and taking that value out to the marketplace and essentially finding out that the more value that they create, the more actually money that they actually make, right? So, how do you help, especially young teens, to see what I call their lived transformation, right? What they've mastered, and helping them extract that into an offer. How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, um, I think for my path as it goes back to that idea of learning the skills first, and then the idea kind of comes later. Um, Even for adults, like there's not really like this one particular thing that they're doing forever. At least like for the entrepreneurial mindset, it's like Russell is switching from things all the time. He dives into it and he doesn't dabble, he focuses on it and builds it up. But as soon as he's like created a good foundation for it and then gets another idea, he goes and does that. And it's still connected somehow, but he's always shifting. There's no one main thing really. And so I kind of and my dad like really instilled this in me to learn the skills first of like, when that idea comes along, how am I going to present it to, how am I going to find an audience, how am I going to present it to them, and how am I going to sell them on it. And the idea, whatever it ends up being, will come later. And whether that's from like interests, whether it's like, something that, like, I always like the ikigai, what
Yep.
you're good at, what you love doing, what the world needs, and what pays.
Yep.
When you can find the cross section of all four of those, then that's one of the things that you can pursue. Um, I think my focus, and what I like to have the teens focus on, is just pick something for now, and it's most likely not going to be the thing, but you're going to be able to practice and fail and learn. And sometimes there will be a little bit of success, and you'll learn from that too. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah. So essentially, what you're saying is you're telling them, hey, you got this idea, just go, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
go. And I 100% agree with that. And so what I see most people get stuck, even, we're talking about not just teens. It's great that I think it's easier, honestly, to teach, to train, to coach a team because, right, um, they have a lot less limitations, quite honestly, limiting beliefs. They're
Yeah,
more
you don't
open.
make
They're
it.
more, yeah, yeah. They're much, if you're talking about drawing, they're beautiful white, nice canvas that you can really work with, right?
Yep.
They have less to kind of work through. Um, so I love the fact that you said it's literally about going, and this is where I think I know that most people get stuck is most people believe that they need clarity first before they actually go, right? And sometimes clarity, I know, not just sometimes, I know it does. Clarity comes from going, because once you
Mhm.
go, then you really find out what's working, what's not, right? Um, in the last 3 years, how many offers have you created, right? That you've sold. How many offers have you put together? Because I think that's very important to talk about, because I think some people think, oh, I create this one offer, then I'm going to be really successful. I I'm on my ever since 2020, I'm on my 14th offer, right? So it's literally continuous improvement iterations of an offer, but I'm on my 14th offer, meaning 14th, um, the title, the name of the offer, 14th way of delivering it, 14th price point, right? 14th way of, like, literally more than 14th way actually, of how to sell it, right? So
Mhm.
I'm on my 14th offer right now. So how many offers have you actually created yourself?
Man, I'm gonna just group funnel building as like kind of one thing. Although, like, for that, the whenever I present it to somebody, that changes every time because it's a different project. Sometimes it's a few pages of a funnel. Sometimes I'm rebuilding just like a page, and so that's always different. So I guess that's a whole multitude of offers there. Um, and then I did try. I think the first thing separate from funnel building was, well, kind of separate, because I wanted to do like a funnel building for kids program. Um, I kind of half launched that. I never sold it though. So, but that was one that I had made. Um, and then after that came doing the founding member launch for the Teen Mastermind, um, and then doing the actual main Teen Mastermind offer at the first event in October 2025. Um, and that's been like the main one for me right now. Um, I guess I don't know. Would you count like the live event itself as an offer or not really?
Yeah, yeah, because whether you sold it or not, it's you put idea into implementation, right? And whether you generate income from that implementation or not was you learn from that,
Mm-hmm.
and you went, and then you found out, oh, that's not the direction I want to go, so I'm gonna switch it, right? So that's where the clarity kind of comes in from, that landed you. I think you didn't need 14 or 15, to my point of what I talked about earlier. You didn't need 14 iterations of your offer. You're on, like, the third iteration, because again, I think that um, younger teens like you get to your get to what you want a lot faster than adults, right? We kind of get in our own way. That's why for me it took 14 iterations in the last, 6 years. For you, it's taken only three in the last, 3 years to really kind of identify what you're actually doing now, which is back to the ikigai. If you guys heard what Malcolm said earlier, it's literally it's your proficiency, right? What this is what you know, right? Your expertise, right? Second is what you love, what's in your heart and your head, right? Your head is your proficiency, and then what's in your passions, what's in your heart, what's what you love doing. Third is what the world needs, right? It's problems that you could solve, payoff that people want that you can actually help them get, a process that people want to learn, right? To get them from where they are to where they want to go. And then the fourth is that you can actually be paid for. People are willing to pay for this thing of value that you actually have. That's the ikigai way, right? It's a Japanese philosophy that it's a reason for being, right? So um, for him, it took him three iterations to find what he launched last year, right? 2025, which is Team Mastermind Live, right? And he's doing our son's a part of that, right? Alexander and Troy are part of that. And that offer that you sell, what is the price point of that offer?
That's 5K a year right now.
5K a year. Perfect. And that's a renewable each year, right?
Yep.
12 months they renew. Okay, perfect. So 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 you have the offer. That's the first step in this whole thing, right? So as far as a practical takeaway for those of you who are listening, parents, right? Maybe this is for you. Or you're like, man, a team's creating an offer, and here I am sitting here. My only offer is to trade my time for my very valuable time. Let's be very very clear here. My very valuable time for a little bit of someone else's money. That might hurt a little bit as you guys are hearing that. You're trading your very valuable time for a little bit of someone else's money. So going back to Bronny Ware's second point, I wish I wouldn't have worked so hard. I wish I would have traded my life for a paycheck. That's people's second top regret of the dying, right? So create an offer. You have something, you have your own ikigai, is what Malcolm is saying, right? And you have to discover that. And sometimes discovering that means going, right? I have a framework that says go, grow, get, right? Most people want to get. They want to get what other people, gotten, right? They want to get what other people have. They want wealth. They want freedom. They want time. They want to travel like my family. They want to do what Malcolm and his family are doing. They're like, they want that, but they forget the going part. And when you don't go, you don't grow. And when you don't grow, you don't get. It's literally that simple. So you go first, right? And then you grow from that. And sometimes by going, you're like, I'm not growing the right way. This is not the right offer. I need to change it. And that's part of growth. And then eventually you'll find the path that you should be on, your ikigai, and then you start getting just like what Malcolm's doing, getting results, right? Getting sales, getting running events, and people are buying his masterminds and things like that. So $5,000 offer is his thing now. And what's the deliverables in that? What do people get when they actually pay for that mastermind?
Yeah, they get. We do weekly calls where all the teens mastermind. I bring guest speakers on, at least a couple every month. We've had Russell and Myron on, so like high caliber people. They get all the recordings of that as well. The Discord community is a big thing because then the teens can just freely chat in between the calls and even directly message each other, which is a huge part of we need that peer-to-peer connection, especially as teens. And then accountability calls, keeping each other accountable. And then, yeah, all the recordings, the Rolodex, which is contact information for all the guest speakers who have agreed and want to say hey, you're free to contact me. The teens are free to contact me whenever they have a question, which is such a huge thing. It's I get to message these super cool people. And then I also made an affiliate program for it. And so if the teens like don't even have an idea for a business yet, but they're still interested in learning the marketing and the sales, sell the teen mastermind, make that your business right now. So I think those are the key.
Phenomenal. Yeah, phenomenal. So we're going to revisit that one. I love that, by the way. So let me ask you a question. Do you think right now this offer that you're selling, um, is it perfect, or do you think that it still needs a little bit of work? There's some improvements that you probably will tweak this offer a little bit more.
Yeah, it definitely needs work, and the thing I'm working on is the like a success path, and so that's been part of the offer, but it's still like kind of a work in progress. So that's there's always something to tweak, and so you have
Yeah.
to know like when is it enough. But right now, for sure, having a success path, a defined like this is where you start, figure out what stage you're at, and this is where we're taking you.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason why I asked that question is because, choose, right? Make a decision to choose progress over perfection, right? Progress over perfection, because people think that your offer needs to be perfect. Everything needs to be perfect. Your deliverables, all that stuff need to be perfect. Your price point, how they work with you after they say yes, all of that stuff, right? How you run your events, like, like what Malcolm and he's doing, right? Like I am pretty sure that he's on his fourth event coming up, right? And he's grown it. You've grown every single event, correct? Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
yeah. So it does not have to be perfect, right? Just go, right? Progress over perfection. So, and then you're gonna tweak it. You're gonna tweak. Just think of your offer as a minimum viable offer right now. That's really what it is. Minimum viable product, and you're gonna launch it, and you're gonna make improvements for it. Even though sometimes, even if you think your offer is perfect, there's still going to be some tweaks, right? There is 100% going to be some tweaks. And going back to the Ikigai, the second part, the second part. Oh, give me a second, real quick here, Malcolm. Oh, my cam. Oh, there you go. We have this AI camera that sometimes freaks out a little bit. It's weird, but okay, it's not freaking out anymore. Okay, cut that part off, team. Um, So going back to the ikigai, the second part of the ikigai is obviously, the first part is what you know, right? Your proficiency, your expertise. It's all head, right? But the second part, I think, is probably the most important part of the ikigai, which is passion, which is what's in your heart. Even if you're great at selling something, and I'll use my story in a little bit here, and you're making money at it, there's got to be an alignment between what you know and what you love. There has to be a marriage between what you know and what you love. I sold something at one point. I literally walked the stage, winning my second Two Comma Club award, and I actually hated what I was selling. That's crazy, right? Did seven figures the second year in a row. Did $1.2 million, right, the second year, and I walked the stage after receiving the Two Comma Club award and with ClickFunnels, and I'm like, I hate what I do. I hate what I do, right? So going back to passion, going back to your deliverables, I know even though you're saying that there's probably some tweaking I need to do still, which is totally fine. That's a never ending, because life changes, business changes, people change. So your program, your offer has to change with it as well.
Mm.
So um, I am a firm believer that you must love what you're selling. Otherwise, you will self sabotage yourself. So, how does one, as somebody's listening to this, they're creating their offer, right? Um, we're not even going to talk about price point yet, just their offer itself. They're creating it, and I think that the number one thing before you start trying to sell it, before you create the pricing, you have to focus on your deliverables, right? How you actually deliver after the sale. Because if you don't love that, you're going to self sabotage your own sales. So, how did you come up with, I'm going to sell this $5,000 offer, and I'm going to, this is what I'm going to add inside the offer, calls, weekly calls and mastermind events. How did you come up with that? And most importantly, how do you help your clients create their offer in terms of their deliverables and their fulfillment?
Yeah, I think Russell talks about this idea of the customer that you're serving is you from 10 years ago or 5 years ago, however long ago. It's the past version of you. And so the original idea for the Teen Mastermind came from just the fact that I wanted to have entrepreneurial friends that were my age. So that's how the mastermind started, and it was honestly just like a friend group, and we decided, hey, let's continue to message each other after this event is over. And actually, what's better is let's start doing calls together, and that's how that started. And they kept telling me like, this is actually super valuable. You need to like monetize this and grow this and make it bigger. And so I was literally just creating exactly what I would have wanted as a younger teen. And like, I was just creating the thing that I wanted to do. And what I'm thinking about, like, what were the things that, like, number one, like listening to the audience that was already there was super
Mhm.
helpful because who knows your client better than your client? Um, and then also because I kind of was already the person who what I kind of was the client myself too. Um, that made it a lot easier as well. So I think as far as that's what I did for creating the Teen Mastermind and how those things came about, and the live event came about because um, we were all the Teen Mastermind. The purpose of it was to be the connection and the bridge between the events that we were all going to, because we were all part of Russell's World. But eventually, people from outside of Russell's World came in, and then I think Russell did the last funnel hacking live, and so we had less events to actually meet up in person. And Zoom is great and all, but you got to have that in-person connection, especially for us kids and teens. So that's how the event came along, as a need came up, and so we needed to fill that need. And that's
Mm.
another huge aspect of creating like what's something that like what makes a good offer is like if there's something that's needed, then your job is to fill that. And so that I think it's another big part of what makes a
Totally.
good offer and what makes a good offer that you love as well.
Yeah. So you you created something that you wish you had. That was one, right? You kind of dove into yourself and said, what did I want? Right? What did I
Mm-hmm.
want? Well, I want a community, right? A community of people that are my age that want to be young entrepreneurs as well, right? Teen entrepreneurs. So you started doing these calls. It was free at the very beginning, and you found out that people value that, and you value that, and you wish you had that, and that it wasn't available. So you said, well, why don't I create an offer for this? That's amazing. And then everything else kind of fell into place and created it kind of grew and created on its own, right? That's kind of how it
Mm-hmm.
works. Yeah, totally. Um, so let's talk about the actual offer now. So how do you help your these young teens kind of extract, right? Because I think that the 7 steps in offer creation or successful when we're talking about offer launches, you live it, right? So you're living it, and by you living it means that this is something that you actually know, right? You're really, really good at this thing, that you're an expert at this, right? People come to you, you're already giving this type of advice for free most of the time. So you really, really know that. You embody it, right? Second is you love it, right? Something that lights you up, you would be willing to do it for free because you love it so much, right? And then third is it's literally who you are, right? So that's what we mean by live it. Because when you show up as who you are coaching, teaching, training from your essence, right? You're not trying to be anybody else. You're turning on the camera. You're not fearing the camera. Why? Because this is exactly who you are. You don't have to change anything. You're not trying to pretend to be anybody else. So that's what I mean by live it. That's the first step. Second step is you extract it. So you're living it, then you're able to extract it, right? And then the third is you package it into an offer. The fourth step is then you put a value on it, a price on it. Then the fifth, you market it, you share it with the world that you have this thing that's valuable. The sixth step is you then sell it. You actually make offers, and then step seven, which is then you teach it, which is essentially what you're doing. You're teaching it, training it, you're masterminding about it, right? So those are the 7 steps of offer creation. So my question to you would be, at the point of extraction, how do you help these teens identify, oh, that's your thing, right? Whether it's real estate, whether it's, somebody wants to be a YouTuber, or somebody wants to speak on stages, or somebody wants to, I think I saw one of the teams was, they did physical products. I think they were selling like T-shirts and things like that. How do you help people extract that, their mastery, and then package it into a high value offer so that they can take it out to the marketplace? How do you help them extract that?
Yeah, I think for adults, when you're doing that for them, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like for adults, you can tell them to look back on what they liked and what they did and what they're good at when they were younger, and
Mm,
that kind of influences who they are today as an adult. While you're still a kid and while you're still a teen, you're still developing all of that stuff, and so it is kind of tricky. But I think entrepreneurship and creating businesses and creating offers allows you to explore that creativity that you have as a kid and as a teen way, way more, because
mm,
it totally gives you permission to try out a thing, test it out, see if you even like it, and see if it fails or succeeds. And if it fails, it's also a success because you learned, oh, that didn't work. That's data for the next thing. And so I think um, I've had a lot of guest speakers, and so many of them, I think the biggest thread across all of them is one, I wish I had this when I was a kid, because having a community of people to encourage me and validate, oh, wait, entrepreneurship is cool, is
mm.
a thing that they never had. So that's one thing that they always say. And then the other thing is try stuff, try as many things as possible when you're a kid,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
you don't know what you do and don't like and what you are and are not good at. And being a kid and being a teen, that is the prime time to start learning all that stuff, because most adults don't learn until they're way older and sometimes don't ever learn, unfortunately. And so you need to just get as much uh, experience and as many ideas out there as possible while you're a kid, because that's how you figure out what your quote unquote thing is.
yeah. Um, just some inside, information for you. Alexander, our son, our two sons, Alexander and Troy, are part of the teen mastermind as well. So, and they're not even teens yet, right? Alexander, I think you guys met like 4 years ago, right? At Unlock the Secrets in Arizona. So he was 8. Troy was 6 back then. So, but now Alexander's 12, and he's stuck. So this is something that you might want to have a conversation with him about as his coach. Um, I like what you just said there. Let's ask that question. What did you wish you have? And that's actually brilliant to actually ask him, because he is he's already created several offers as well in the last 4 years. I think he's on his third or fourth offer, as a matter of fact. Um, and where he's stuck at right now is he's trying to figure out, what is my offer now? Like, what's his offer now? And he keeps coming back, Malcolm, to this question that his primary question is, well, how can I create an offer for somebody if I haven't really, I don't have, he doesn't have a lot of issues in his life. Right. He believes that he has to like have failed significantly, or ran into some significant challenges, before he can create his offer from, which is, it's one of the ways, right? Because when you're in enough pain, you're like, and you're actually able to get yourself out of that pain or that problem or that challenge, and you're like, I need to create an offer and help people do the same because I did it, right? Like me, for example, right? Um, I help people build wealth and freedom. Why? Because I didn't have both of those two things. And being able to come out the other side and achieve both, that's why I created my offer to help people build wealth and freedom. Um, so asking that question is like, what did you wish you had, or what do you wish you have now, right? Might be something that you can kind of help him with as well. So just kind of, a little sidetrack as well. But that's a great question to ask. What did you wish you had? And that's
Yeah.
most likely is going to be your offer. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I totally relate to him, because like my family is like, I'm so incredibly blessed,
Yeah.
and my family, like, they homeschooled me, They, put me in the dojo, and so I learned so many of my values and principles from that. And you know, they run a business. They were like kind of accidentally putting me into the entrepreneurial world, and no kid has that. That's not
Yeah,
normal. And
yeah,
so yeah, I definitely also felt like I don't have a story with like a bunch of conflicts and like huge lows, like, but every
yeah.
other entrepreneur that I see on
Yes.
stage, when they talk about their story, they have that. But that's totally fine. In fact, I think having that alternate story is perfect, because there are other people who have those kinds of stories where it's like, because I don't like totally those people, those entrepreneurs that are talking about those super low lows are relating to the other people who have those super low
Totally,
lows.
totally.
But I couldn't really relate too much because I didn't have that. And so if you're somebody who has a different story that doesn't have a necessarily like super low like that, then that's the exact kind of people that you should be talking to,
Yeah,
is the people
yeah,
who have a similar journey to you. Or just
yeah.
a
They're
little
in the
bit.
audience. Yeah, they're
Mm.
definitely in the audience, right? For sure, for sure. Um, let's go back to marketing real quick here before we actually go into sales. Um, you said it best. It's one of the two skills that entrepreneurs, doesn't matter the age, has to master, is marketing and sales. Right? You can have the best product in the world, the best service in the world. You can cure cancer. If nobody knows the first step, if nobody knows that you exist, it doesn't matter. Right? It just doesn't matter. So let's talk a little bit about marketing. How much have you? Where did you first start in marketing? First off, and how much have you grown? And those who are listening here, what should, if you had to give like one, one or two top things that they need to focus on in terms of marketing, what would that be?
I think so. I'll start with where I started. Like the Teen Mastermind first grew just through word of mouth, because that was the most immediate thing. As I made a Facebook post in the event group, and then that's how I started the little chat with 7 other teens. And
Mm,
that was it. Just simple posts, simple word of mouth, and then like literally grabbing people, grabbing the other teens at the dinner, and like pulling, hey, we're having a big 2 tables full of teens, and we're all talking to each other. And so that was super like grassroots marketing, just word of mouth.
I
And
remember seeing that. I remember
yeah,
seeing the table that you ran. I think you had about close to 10 people or 11 people or something like that at your
yeah,
table.
yeah. A lot of the tables at that event had like the kids sitting with their parents. Were like, no, we're gonna drag you over here, and all the kids are gonna sit together and talk and
Yep, yep, yep.
mastermind. And
Very
so,
cool.
I mean, that was how it started, because that was the most obvious and the closest way, um, like the best way to get immediate connection, because it was, there in person. Um, Once you translate to online, that gets a little bit different. But I think probably my biggest takeaway that I've gotten recently, we were in one of Russell's inner circle um, meetups, and I think he was talking about Agora and kind of how
Mm,
like the different levels of um, sales, like or the different like levels of business, how
mm,
like getting your first 0 to 1 million, just focus on hot leads, the people that are like easy to get, and just this like it's DMing and direct messaging and stuff like that, where it's just like not easy, but like the most obvious option and the closest one-on-one connection point, because you have the capacity to do that.
mm.
And once you get bigger, then it's like, okay, now I need to be focusing on building up my social media and SEO and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff, because now I need to reach out to outside of my immediate circle. But your immediate circle is more than enough to start off with. And that's how the Teen Mastermind started. And so now I'm, as we're promoting these live events, again, a lot of it is like, a live event doesn't need to be thousands of people. That's the level that Russell gets to do, because he's built so much.
yeah,
And even like he's marketing for an entire year beforehand and planning it. before, for that level of event. But if you're doing an event for 100 or less, then you can still go to that kind of grassroots, like word of mouth, referrals, just DMing people on social media, and even a little bit of paid ads, but not like throwing a bunch of stuff. That still works. It's just I think depending on what level you're at. So, but that was my biggest takeaway was if you're still in that 0 to 1 million point, just focus on the hot leads because
Yep.
that's where your focus should be. Because if you focus on anything else, then you get distracted and you run out of you're not getting the traffic that you should be getting because you haven't gotten the first people.
Yeah. So there's three audiences that Malcolm talked about there, which is cold, warm, and hot. So when he launched his offer, he went to his hot leads first, right? These are people who he met at within the Russell Brunson community, right? Immediate uh, friends and family, and some people actually are afraid to sell friends and family. No, like I think that's the first people you should sell,
Mm-hmm.
especially if your offer can change somebody else's life, change people's lives, then you're doing yourself and them a disservice by not making the offer to them, right? So if you're reluctant to say, "Well, I don't really like to sell friends or family," that's a you. If you care enough about them, you should be selling them. You should be getting that offer in front of them, right, to share with them. Because if that offer can really change people's lives, then that's a life you really should. That's your hot audience, right? And then when he first launched it, he sold to his hot audience first, and then he went to his warm audience. Then his warm audiences are people that he just talked about. He's inside of Inner Circle, right? Our sons are great examples of a warm audience, right? Because yes, they met at Unlock the Secret, but they didn't become Malcolm's clients until 3 years later, right? 4 years, whatever, when they first became. They've known Malcolm, but because they're in proximity with each other, right? They're always going to events or seeing each other. They're in a circle masterminds. They see each other. So then it was just a simple invite. Hey, we're doing this thing. Would you guys want to come? Right, and invited us, right? And then guess what? That warm audience, my sons, Alex and Troy, said, raised their hand and said, I want to be involved with this. And then now he's also going to cold audience now, people who don't know that Teen Mastermind Live exists. And now he's starting to create content. He's starting to do, paid ads, things like that, right? So that's where he's actually at right now. But he's 100% spot on. If you're launching an offer, right, you put a price point, which we'll talk about here next, and you know your deliverables, the first audience you should go after is your hot audience, right? That's your proximity, your sphere of influence, friends, family, people that you know already, that know, like, and trust you already. Go after them, change their life first, and then go to your warm audience, go to the outer, ask for referrals, have them maybe send you some traffic, right? Because you change their life and things like that, or people that you're actually around, and then you go out to your cold audience. That is 100% the best way to launch any offer. So, um, your price of your product, right? Price of your offer. How did you come up with, say, hey, I'm going to sell this for 5,000, and how do you help your clients, the other teens, kind of price what their offer should be?
I think that's one of the like weirdly hardest things for me. It kind of like when you think of it, it really shouldn't be because it's just like putting a price on it, and that's one thing that you just test and you see if it works, and if it doesn't, you change it, and if it does, great, probably change it too, and up it, and like just I think some of the advice I've heard is like if you start like lower ish, like the minimum that you think like would be worth your time, because there's still some time investment in whatever deliverable you have, and so whatever's worth your time and like probably go to that, and then just keep increasing it because even like increasing the price actually ups the value and ups the perceived value, because if something is more expensive, then it should be better, if something's priced too cheaply, but it's actually really good, they're not going to see the really good value because it's priced too cheaply. There's going to be some kind of catch. But if you bring the value and the price up to where it actually makes sense in your client's eyes, then that's where I think the perfect spot is. And so what I've been doing is um, honestly a lot of feedback from outside sources and my inner circle, my people that I surround myself with and who are giving me advice, and my mentors. And you know, everybody's always saying you gotta up your prices, you gotta up your prices. And there's a point to where it's like it's hit the ceiling. But then yeah, I think wherever that point is, and it's gonna happen through a lot of testing where the perceived value and the value that you're giving makes sense in your client's eyes, and that's where I think the sweet spot is. So that's
Yeah,
still a ongoing process for me too. Like I don't think I've totally landed on the right price yet,
yeah,
and
yeah,
there's
yeah.
always something to change.
Totally. I think that I always say that does it make when you sell it, does it make you happy? Right? So
Yeah.
um because of because I've sold things where I'm like, "Ugh, that didn't make me happy. And I knew it. And I knew it because and I knew that my price was too low. And
Hmm.
I saw myself way more valuable than that, but I still sold it, right? I still got the sale, but I knew that as a business, it's not just about the sale, it's about the margins, right? It's about the margins that you can literally from that sale take care of yourself, take care of your company, take care of your team, right? All of those things. And if you're not happy with what you're selling, then you will, regardless of you know how you go about selling it, you will subconsciously self sabotage yourself, right? The two
Hmm.
things that are most important in the sale of an offer is the actual deliverables and the price point in which you sell it at. Because if you don't love those two things, you don't love what you're doing, you don't love the price that you're selling it at, um, even though you want to scale, you will self sabotage yourself because more scaling leads to essentially more suffering because you just don't love it that much, right? Because if you sell more, you're going to suffer more because you're going to hate delivering on it, and you hate the price point you're selling it. So it's subconsciously you self sabotage yourself. So those the two things have to be aligned, right?
Yeah.
Um, Marketing. Last question about marketing. Um, paid ads versus organic, right? Where people can find you, where the algorithms, the social media platforms, they start recommending you because you're a creator, you're creating so much content that you're starting to grow your likes, comments, followers, subscribers. What are your thoughts on marketing? Somebody's just kind of getting started, they have a brand new offer that they're launching, or what would you recommend they do first in terms of marketing?
I think brand new, just starting out, go for the people that you know in your immediate circle. That's the first thing.
Yep.
um, Once you get to this stage where you need to be building a brand and an audience and authority around yourself, that's where I think the social media and the SEO and that kind of stuff starts becoming important. But if you're just starting out, like, all you need is a way to collect payment and the ability to deliver on the offer,
Yeah.
and that's it. Once you have that, you can make money. All the fancy websites and funnel hubs and all the sales funnels and stuff that can come later when it's needed. And I think so. I still do this. I still get distracted with all the cool stuff, especially because I'm a funnel builder. I can do this
Correct.
stuff. Sometimes I'll get too distracted on building a pretty looking funnel when
Yep.
I haven't I haven't told people about it. There's no use in building a pretty
Yes.
funnel when that nobody knows about it. Nobody can go to the site, and so it's important, but it comes later, and it only comes after you have people to actually go and view it. And just
Mm.
start at the easiest, most obvious point possible, which is that direct selling, and eventually you'll outgrow that capacity to where it's diminishing returns. Now I need to go a bit bigger, Uh, but at that point, it's like that's a good problem to have. I need to go bigger because selling one on one is, not enough.
Yeah, yeah. So that that part was so valuable. Like, guys, the reason why I have Malcolm on this podcast is because um, I knew that he would bring like simplicity to this, right? Because it literally is that simple. We are the ones who actually overcomplicate it. I don't know if you heard him what he said. It's very simple, right? Just have a link that people can pay you and have a way to deliver that, that aligns with you essentially. You're right after the yes. That's only two things. No fancy funnel, no big social media, none of that stuff matters at this point of launching, right? The point that matters the most in terms of marketing is getting yourself in front of people and just starting having conversations. And when you get the right, when you get the people saying yes to you, a simple link, right? A simple link for, yeah. Even if you didn't have a link, you just had your, you know, your how people can wire their funds to you, right? If you haven't set up your Stripe, and that's where I think people get so hung up. Well, I need to do this. I need to have a beautiful website. I need to da da da. I need to even create my Stripe account for people to pay me. No, you have a bank account, right? You just give them the wiring instructions, and that's all you need. Even if you didn't set up your Stripe, right? Just have a method in which they can pay you. That's very simple. And then
Mm-hmm.
having a Zoom link, right? And if you didn't have Zoom even to your deliverables, if that was your thing, delivering online, then having a place to meet with them or to do your deliverables there, then that's it. You just hear me. That's how simple it really is. And a good example of this would be my wife. She she when in 2020 she launched her virtual assistants business, and that was it. These were exactly what Malcolm is sharing. Is exactly how she went um, from launching a product, and now at the end of this year we'll finish with that offer will be just a little bit over $15 million, right? In the last 6 years, it'll be 6 years exactly, right? So $15 million. How did she do it? Well, the first 3 years, which is crazy, is exactly what Malcolm just described. She had a link for people to pay, and she had another link for deliverables, which is on Zoom. Most of her business is like 95% on Zoom, right? That's it. And the rest is just getting in front of people and inviting people on a call to share with them how VAs work, who they are, where they're at, right? They're in the Philippines and what they can do for you, et cetera, et cetera. And then making an offer. And when people said yes, she would just give them a Stripe link, to the point where the first two Common Club Award that she won, built a seven-figure business. She did $1.4 million the first year in 2021. So she launched it in 2020. She didn't even, right before Fun and Hack Live, she didn't even know that she actually, um, you know, uh, actually did over $1 million, because she was so focused on just getting in front of people that one of our VAs, hey boss, you got to fill out this form. She goes, what form? Well, you guys are going to Fun Hack Live. You're going to win a two Common Cup awards. She's like, oh, I did, right? Because all the other distracted stuff, she literally didn't focus on. She focused on the one thing that Malcolm's talking about here, which is getting in front of people and having meaningful conversations, right? And once you focus on that, everything else falls into place. No fancy funnel. She didn't have social media at all, right? And she had Facebook, or personal Facebook, and she didn't post very much as well. So, but she just got people in front of her, and then just gave them a link, and then she won a two Common Cup award without even knowing it, right? She had over $1.4 million her first year. So, guys, it's literally that simple. Getting in front of people, letting people know, telling people what you do, who you are, right, and how you go about doing it. What's the payoff? What's how their life can change with you in their life, right, and your products and services. That's pretty much it. And having those type of meaningful conversations, and the right person will come and say yes to you. It's literally that simple. Okay, so um, Malcolm, let's talk about selling. Ooh, selling. How important is selling, right? How important is um, making an offer. So tell me, how do you help? How do you where are you selling your offers now? Because that's part of making offers. You have to choose a method in which you sell, whether it be one-on-one, one-to-many, automated selling, right? Something like whatever it is. That it's got to be your thing. So, how many methods have you used for selling your offers as well?
Yeah, I think one-on-one is like the most direct, and um, I'd say like I don't know, it's easiest in a way, but I think especially for like as an introvert and someone who like hasn't done this before, even if you are an extrovert, if you've never sold anything before, it can be kind of terrifying. Um, but that's unfortunately a step you have to get through. Um, and so, but once you start doing that, I mean, it's a conversation. That's what it is essentially,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even like closing isn't really the point of getting a yes. It's getting them a clear answer of yes or no. Because sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
the thing might not be the right, it might not be the right fit, and that's totally fine. You just have to get them to a point of not sitting on the fence and saying a maybe. You got to get them to a yes or no, because either it's a good fit or it's not. And if
Yeah.
they're stuck in the middle and on the fence, then that's the point of doing that conversation, is so you can close them. That might be a yes or no. Either way, it's good because it's a conversation closed, and finally there's closure to it. And so one-on-one was the main way for like the funnel building, and when I did the the founding member launch for the team mastermind. I think right now the main way for me to get the offer and in front of people and sell it is at the live events when I do the presentation and present the offer live, and um, and that allows you to do bigger and higher ticket offers when you have people in the room and they've been with you for a couple of days and they've gotten to really see like um, who you are and what the whole thing is about. And so there's a lot of um, you've already had so many touch points because number one, they've already paid to get into the event to begin with,
Yep. Yep.
and um, and now they're so they've already paid. One transaction has already happened, and so that's a huge um, step like block that's been broken already. Um, and because it's so close together with you and the audience, that makes it a lot easier to get that sale. But it's not entirely efficient because I have to do it at a live event, which takes a lot of preparation. And so the next thing I'm working on is doing some virtual webinars or a challenge, whatever delivery I have for that, something virtual to sell the offer online, which doesn't require nearly as much preparation or work.
Mm,
And again, there's a little bit of disadvantages because it's not like being in person. That's the best case scenario, but it's
totally.
still multiple touch points to get into the webinar or the challenge and then make the sale there.
Yeah. So you've done one-on-one, and you've done now one-to-many, virtual as well as in person, right? Have you ever sold anything automated where you're having them watch like an auto webinar, and then you're making an offer and people are clicking to buy? Have you ever
Oh,
done anything like that yet?
yeah, I guess like selling the tickets to the event would be one of them.
Yep.
Sometimes you'll need to message afterwards and close
Yep.
there, but
Yep.
once send the link, they watch the videos, like, or they see the ad, go to the funnel, watch the video, and that's automated. I recorded that video
Mm,
once, multiple times because there's mistakes I made, but recorded that video once, it's there forever, and then there's the button to buy the tickets, and so I've done that too.
very good. Um, share with the audience, when making an offer. Um, I think there's definitely a skill in terms of making offers. You actually said one of the skills that I really like, and I use it. I've used it for gosh, at least 15 or 16 years now. Um, Before I make an offer, and especially if I know I can help the person for sure, because we're not just out here selling stuff, right? We're not selling things and stuff. What we're selling is transformation. When we know that we can help people transform, right? We have to make offers. Otherwise, you're doing yourself a disservice and the people that you can actually help.
Hmm.
One of the things I did say that Mike Malcolm just mentioned, and I want you guys to also use this as well. I always start every call if I'm doing a one-on-one call or even one-to-many sales. Um, I always say, hey, let's make sure let's come to an agreement first here, okay? Because I'm going to make an offer or I'm going to share something with you that I know that can transform your life without a doubt, right? All I'm looking for is this, either a yes or a no, never a maybe. Either a yes or a no, never a maybe. Is that okay? Because if this is a yes for you, this is if you know that the offer will transform and change your life, let's make it a yes. If it's not for you, that's okay too. Just like what Malcolm said there, it's okay too. If it's not for you, even though I may think it is, but if it's not for you, let's at least get a no. It's okay, right? It might be me, it might be my offer, it might be things in my offer, it might be you don't have enough time, or it might be whatever that it's just not for you. That at least just get a no, but don't sit on the fence and make it a maybe, because it doesn't help you or me, right? And it's a pattern that we want to make sure that you, the audience, you let them know that it's a pattern I don't want you to actually get into a habit of making, right? Just make a decision, yes or no. So can we at least get an agreement on that? And you're not gonna hurt my feelings in me if you say no, okay? Is that cool? They're like, oh, that makes sense, right? And then they drop their guard and they really listen once you talk that way. So other than that, Malcolm, when making an offer, what do you think is one or two like tops skills that entrepreneurs really need to learn and master in order to actually make selling or making offers a lot more natural versus forcefully.
Yeah, I think I've only made like I've done 3 events so far, so I've done an offer from stage 3 times, and so I'm still definitely in
Which
the
is
learning
great.
process of
Which
this.
is
Yeah,
great. It's a lot more than most people have
yeah,
done.
yeah. Most of those
So
have never done that, let alone a teen. So I'm
yeah,
already,
yeah,
um, and so, but it's still tough, and I'm sure there's still some like feelings that even Russell has of like, of nervousness. Everybody has that, and that's
yeah,
fine. I think one thing is I learned this to ask permission for the offer, and that kind of goes along with saying don't say maybe, it's a yes or a no. It gives them the ability to not feel awkward by not taking
yeah,
the offer because you've given them the choice. Like, hey, you can say yes or no, and then that and like asking permission. I always ask permission at the beginning of the presentation. Like, hey, I'm going to make this offer. Is it okay if I share about it? And they say yes, and then I go ahead and share about it, and that automatically, uh, you know, relieves the awkwardness that might be there. Um, and it's still probably going to be awkward the first few times that you do it, and that's part of the learning process. So I'd say one big thing, and this goes for anything that you're learning, is you just need to practice. It's going to take a lot of reps. It's going to take a lot of failures, and that's a huge skill of being an entrepreneur. Is you have to learn to adapt. You have to learn how to learn, and you have to learn to fail and be okay with that and get back up. If you can't do
yeah,
that, you're going to have a hard time as an entrepreneur.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Making offers. That's why I wanted to bring it up, right? Communicating and making sure that they're giving them permission, right? Treating them intelligent. People know. People are not dumb. They're intelligent enough to know whether the offer is good for them or not. So at
Mm.
least um, let's communicate that in a way where, like, making them feel safe, right? And that it's okay for them to say no. It's okay, right? Don't Let's not treat them like kids. That's second. First, the second thing is what Malcolm said there was just, you know get in the habit of making offers, right? Because and know that there's a law of averages, right? Law of averages. There's some people are going to say yes, some people are going to say no. Eventually, you'll land and you'll find what your law of averages, what your conversion percentage is. It might be 20%, it might be 17, might be 15, might be 50%. You don't know, but you don't know because you're not making offers. Eventually, you'll know what that number is, right? And then now everything becomes predictable because you're like, wait, my closing percentage is consistently 25%. That means that if I want to do 25 sales, I just got to get 100 people in the room. That's easy now. And those 25 sales end up being $5,000 a sale. And if I really wanted to make $100,000, every single event, then that's it. My business is now predictable. I control the faucet. I just need to get 100 people in the room, right? And I'll do $100,000 day easily. Okay, now it's easy math, right? And my margins are this, and how much do I need to spend, right? Law of large numbers. How much do I need to spend to get 100 people in the room? You'll know that as well. And now your business becomes predictable. It becomes a machine, right? You stop guessing at that point. That's why it's so important to make offers. Okay, so um, leads, right? Leads. Building a list, lead generation is vital to selling. When somebody comes to me, Malcolm, they say, hey, I want to hit a certain outcome financially, or they want to generate this much money every month, and they're not generating it. I always look at, okay, if you're not generating that revenue, and let's look at your offer first, right? And then find out, okay, your offer's good, so it's great, it's irresistible, so perfect. Let's move beyond the offer. Let's look at how many offers have you made, and then I find out, oh, how can you hit your financial outcome when you have this offer that nobody's buying, and the reason why nobody's buying is because you're not making enough offers, right? And then I find out, okay, let's find out now. Let's go up your funnel. If you're not making enough offers, then do you have enough people to sell to, which is leads? And then I find out they don't have enough people to sell to, and then I said, okay, that's a problem. Let's go up your funnel some more. Why don't you have enough people to sell to? Oh, you're not marketing enough. Then we find out the real problem, right? Because they're thinking the real problem is money. The real problem is marketing, not money, right? So I go up there and I find out, then I explain to them, well, you're not marketing enough. And the reason why you're not marketing enough, because you don't have enough people to sell to. If you don't have enough people to sell to, then you're not making enough offers. If you're not making enough offers, that is why you have a money problem, right? So having enough people to sell to is vital to this building. Talk a little bit about how you teach and train and coach your students, your teens to build a list, and how do you help them? What do you teach them in terms of nurturing that list? Starting a relationship is one thing, building and deepening the relationship is another. So can you share and talk on that?
Yeah. Again, like starting out, direct messaging, easiest, most approachable, and the closest thing that you have available. So that's number one. I've had, social media is like the big thing right now, especially for my generation. Uh, and so a lot of them gravitate towards that, and some of them gravitate towards that as like that being the business. It's not really. I mean, I know like a lot of YouTubers and a lot of streamers, like they make a bunch of money from the ad revenue, but that's, ad revenue pays a lot more on those platforms, and they have sponsorships still. And so they're still treating their quote unquote, like, their social media as a business because they're doing brand deals and sponsorships and making their own merch and stuff. So they're still treating it as a business. But I've had a couple of teens build a big following on social media. I think one, Gabe, I think he built his Instagram to like 40,000 followers in very short period of time. And so um, that's a, social media, I think, is probably the most access that uh, we have right now, because it used to be you had to get a TV ad, or you had to get a radio ad, or you had to
Mhm.
go through all these highly, uh, you know, um, what's the word? Not red tape. That's like,
Expensive.
yeah,
Yeah, lot of friction, a lot of
yeah, a lot
resistance, a
of
lot of
high friction,
expensive too.
yeah, high
Yeah.
friction and very expensive ways of getting the word out there. Um, and so, but now you have social media and everybody's connected, which comes with its own unique set of problems as well. Because it's like when everyone's connected, no one's connected. And so you have to, like, you have this ability to go and find your people, but that means you have to get really specific and create a unique brand and identity for yourself. But if you should be able to figure that out, if and that's going to take a lot of trial and error too. But
Yeah.
um, and the most important thing is, once you are building that social media following, like, none of those people are, a lot of them are following you, but you still don't have direct access to them. And that's where the idea of the list comes up. And, there's still, like, one day email could shut down. That's why you have backups. But email still, I think, is one of the best avenues to get to your clients. And I know, like, so many businesses are still like, they don't even have social media at all. They're just completely email run, and they make millions of dollars, and it's insane. So email is still uh, the best way, and you do that by, like, the free information that you're talking about online on social media already. Start packaging that into lead magnets. I think Russell talks about how all the, like, secrets and stuff that he talks about is in his books.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember how much he, like, sells them for, but, like,
Yeah.
cheap enough, but way cheaper than going to an event, way cheaper than getting in the inner circle, and all of
Yeah.
his secrets are right there in the books. It's just packaged a different way. And there's,
Yeah.
proximity too. Books is like the furthest thing away from Russell. If you're in inner circle, you get really close to Russell. So that's what people pay for, is different packaging and closer proximity. And
Yeah.
so, but all this stuff is right there in the books. And after people get the books, that we've heard of stories of, like, people making their 2 comma club just from the stuff that they read from the book.
For the book.
But even after that, they still want to get closer to Russell. They still want to
Correct.
buy his other offers. And so uh, repackaging the information in other mediums and other formats, I think, is pretty easy and pretty good way to create lead magnets. I think of a book
Mm.
as a lead magnet, just kind of
Yeah.
paid a little bit. Um, and that's how you can get your leads and start building that authority and trust.
Totally. And then nurture the relationship, right? Because again, followers to a lead magnet. That's how simple it is to build a list, right? Because consumption leads to conversion. Conversion meaning that, conversion doesn't mean that all necessarily mean money. Conversion means, time as well, right? Time is a form of payment.
Mm-hmm.
People will pay you with their time before they pay you with their money, right? And when it comes to social media, people don't go to social media to buy, they go to social media because they are bored, right? So let's make sure that you understand that building followers, building an audience, if you really want to build a brand, the very first thing you need to do is build an audience, right? So people start consuming or following you. And then eventually they'll raise their hand by going to a lead magnet, like what Malcolm's talking about. It could be simple. It could be something, a PDF, it could be a digital book, it could be a simple, course, a mini course that you actually create, or a video for people to opt into to watch, right? Or register for a simple masterclass or webinar, things like that. And that's how you build a list. And then they may not buy the first time, just like my boys, right? 3, almost 4 years later, they didn't buy, but they knew Malcolm, right? They entered his world and they're in his proximity, and they bought when they were ready, quite honestly, right? We felt that they were ready as well. So almost 4 years later, they ended up buying, but that relationship started 4 years ago, and it's nurtured ever since then, right? That's where the list building and list nurturing comes in. It's a two-step approach, right? It's lead generation and then lead nurturing before lead conversion happens, right? Before
Mm-hmm.
they actually become an actual client. So, last question for you, Malcolm. Let's talk a little bit about mindset. Mindset.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, how do you help how do you help your clients get out of their own way and create their offer, create their business, launch their business, start marketing, right? All of it, right? Because it's a mindset thing. We can give them the best strategies, the best tactics, the most all the mechanics of what to do, how to do it. But I believe that who they become is one of the things that are vital to this. So let's talk a little bit about mindset. What have you ran into with your own clients, and how do you help them remove some of the mindset blocks that they have, and seeing themselves as value, and they can turn their value into a high value offer.
Yeah. Um, this is the most important part of this, honestly, and even more important than the teens like making money with their businesses is who are they becoming by building a business and by becoming an entrepreneur. Like, what kind of person are these teens growing up to be? Mindset's like huge. I think Tony Robbins said 80% of success is psychology and only 20% is tactics. Um, and so um, it's surprising how um, a lot of the guest speakers talk about this. How because and we talked about this earlier. Like, the teens are a blank slate, and so they don't know that they can fail. Uh, and so that creates a lot of like immediate ability to just go and do stuff, which is awesome. And the earlier you can start doing that, the better. Um, but I think one mindset shift that I had to go through was that I'm too young, and
Mm,
I haven't like I'm not quite an expert by my standards, and this doesn't help when you're a perfectionist too. And it's like everything has to
yeah.
be perfect before I ship anything. And so I think as a teen, I had to realize like the people that are going to follow me aren't going to follow me because I'm you know light years ahead of them. They're going to follow me because I'm a few steps ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole amazing part of the teen mastermind. And I think why it really works is because us teens, especially that were in Russell's circle and all of that, was we were seeing these entrepreneurs who were adults and had already been doing business for 10, 20, 30 years, whereas we're teens and we're like just hearing about this, and it's like it's kind of daunting. But when you find a peer who's been doing this for a few months or a year, and they've figured out a couple more things than you have, that makes it a lot more approachable. And so a big mindset shift that I had to get over, a shift that I had to make, was um, being okay with not being perfect, like a perfect expert at this kind of stuff yet, and realizing that I'm a few steps ahead, and I'm quite a few steps ahead because I've been going to these events and learning for most of my life. Since I was 9 years old, we've been going to business masterminds and conferences. And so I know a lot of stuff, but I think, we're our own worst self critic. And so that's a shift that I had to make. And I know quite a few of the teens have had to make as well.
Mm,
Um, and so it's easier to help them because I've gone through that as before. Um, and um, so that's one, is like believing that we're too young to start and that we don't know enough yet. It's like,
mm,
no, you're on the journey, and that's why people are going to follow you, is that
yep.
you're pulling everybody else along with you, and you're learning.
Yep.
And even Russell's still doing that. He's still learning a ton of stuff, and that's why we follow him, is because he knows
Correct.
where to learn from.
Yep.
Um, trying
Yeah,
to
I
think of
love that.
another.
I love that. A good, I guess, a good visual of this, guys, would be Malcolm's on the path, right? He's on the path, and the people that are saying yes to him are people who are not on the path that want to be on the path, right? And he doesn't have to be on the path, so far away. It's just one or two steps ahead of them, meaning that, hey, you're not on the path, I'm already on the path. So the mindset shift that he works with his clients, and I do this as well, is to essentially say, you don't, you know, you just, is this what you want? That's the first thing. Do you want to be on the path, right? Do you want to be on the yellow brick road? Because I'm on it. And if you find yourself that, hey, you're actually on it, then that's it. You are qualified. You are qualified to actually create your offer and say, I'm on the yellow brick road, so I'm finding people who actually want to be on the yellow brick road. And if they don't, then don't the offer's not right for them because they don't want to be on the yellow brick road. But if they do want to be on the yellow brick road, that's your offer. You just have to say, hey, I'm already on it. So if you want to be on it, I can show you how to get on it. Right? Does that make sense? Right. So
Yeah,
that's essentially what the mindset shift there is.
yeah. A parallel to the dojo is, we have senpais and kohais. Senpais are the people that are higher ranked than you. Kohais are the ones who are lower rank. And
Mm,
so, you don't have to be a black belt to start teaching. And we don't, some of our instructors are blue belts and purple belts. Not all of them are black belts,
mm,
but a blue belt probably can't teach a purple belt new stuff, but a blue belt can 100% teach a white belt new stuff. A purple
yeah.
belt can definitely teach blue belt, and brown can definitely teach purple, and black can teach all of them. And the black belts are still learning. And so it's just, it goes back to, who were you 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, a few months ago? You're helping that person. You're helping that
Yeah.
version of yourself that you just were a little bit ago.
Yeah, yeah. And even as an example of like funnel building, since that's where you started. And as a matter of fact, that's where I started too. In 2020, when I first launched my first online offer, my very first offer was in our coaching business right now. Me and Phyllis launched two offers at the same time. She launched her virtual assistants business and I launched a funnel building business, right? Um, and I never built a funnel for myself, but my very first offer was actually um, showing people actually and charging for it, showing people what funnel they actually should be using based on how they wanted to deliver, how fulfill on their offer, how they wanted to sell their offer, right, and how they wanted to market their offer, which then gave me, I charged for it, right? It was $2,500, and it was just a mapping strategy. We didn't build funnels yet. This was just getting on a call and essentially mapping out their client journey from top of funnel all the way to bottom of funnel, and then getting them to, um, you know, finally identify which funnel they should be using, whether it be an auto webinar funnel, a live event funnel, a book a call funnel, an application funnel, lead generation funnel, whatever that funnel is, getting them to know, oh my God, thank you very much. This is exactly what I need. I need clarity on my client journey and which funnel I should be using when I'm ready to when I'm ready to generate a lead or when I'm ready to generate a sale. So that I found was giving clarity was what I was selling essentially, and it was 25. My first offer was $2,500, and then I built my funnel building business, which says, hey, by the way, we can build this for you, right? So again, I wasn't 100 steps ahead of my client. I was just one or two steps, quite honestly, right? And that clarity was so valuable to them because they were so stuck. They were like, I don't know how to start this thing. I want to get started. I don't know how to start. And just giving them that clarity was huge. And just that's a great example of this. I didn't build my very first funnel until I made, I think, almost $300,000 on that sale, on that $2,500 offer, just giving people clarity of what funnel to use. And then I was confident, saying, hey, we can actually build this for them as well. So let's create another offer. And then after that discovery call, training that I did, then we would then make an offer. And I started with a lead generation funnel for $5,000. Hey, we'll build your lead generation funnel if that's your thing. Webinar funnel was 7,500, and live event, live webinars, all that stuff was about $10,000. That's what I built funnels for back then, right? So you don't have to be 1,000 steps ahead of your clients. Okay, so all right, one last thing, Malcolm. Again, it's been a pleasure having you on here with us. Um, Chances are, right, if you've listened all the way to this far, um, chances are you're pretty tired. You're pretty tired of following someone else's rules, following someone else's way of living, following this lifestyle that you've defaulted to, right? Go to school and get a good education, get into debt, right? Work for somebody and retire, hopefully retire one day. That model, that script that you've been following is probably, chances are you're pretty tired of that, and that's not your thing anymore, right? So one last thing that, as a takeaway, the most important, if people want to get out of that way of living and to go the entrepreneurship way, what would be, the last takeaway that you want to, share with the audience here, Malcolm, before we take off?
I think just go for it. I think that is the biggest thing, is just go for
What
it.
do you have to What do you have to lose, right? What do you have to
Yeah,
lose?
you just got to take that first step, and that is the hardest. I mean, in the dojo, everybody knows this by heart. Every time we say it when someone gets their white belt, we always ask all the students, what's the hardest belt to get? It's not the black belt, it's the white
Yeah,
belt. It's showing
yeah,
up, walking through that door, taking your first class, and saying, and having that one moment of confidence to step in. And once you do that, the rest is history.
100%. Yeah, I think that I agree with you on that. Take action, meaning make a decisions where you decide to cut off, right, from what you're currently doing. Because if you continue doing what you're currently doing, you're going to continue getting what you're currently getting, right? So if you want that to change, then you have to make a decision to cut off yourself from that way of doing. So you got to change, right? And 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 I think the second, and my takeaway from this for you guys would be, find the who, right? Find the who, right? Make a decision to act, but find the who that can help you avoid mistakes that they've made and speed up your success, right? Because the tyranny of how, this is why most people stay stuck, is they think that they have to learn how, and you don't. You just have to find the who that knows the how, right? Find the who. People like Malcolm. Even though you're an adult listening to this, if you want to create your offer, you want to learn how to market yourself, you want to learn how to extract your value, package it, and put a price on it, and figure out how to go out to the marketplace, you can learn from a who. You can learn from a team. You don't have to be a teen to learn from Malcolm, right? And you don't have to be an adult to learn from me, right? You could be a teen to learn from me as well. So, Malcolm, how do people get a hold of you, and where do you want them to go? Where do you want them to go find you, get involved with you? Is it the team mastermind that you want them to kind of check out if that's their thing, to fly into one of your events or go online to one of your events? How do you want them to get a hold of you? And
Yeah,
we'll
I
share
think
that
that
link as well with you, whatever you're sharing.
Yeah, I think the next best thing would be the Teen Mastermind live event that we're doing. So the next one's August 13th, 14th, and 15th in Boise, Idaho. It's going to be
Yeah,
amazing. So yeah, teenmastermindlive.com would be the link.
Teen
So
Mastermind, teenmastermindlive.com. And you do that every 3 or 4 months, right? So you do
yeah,
about
we're doing
four,
it every
four,
3 months. So
every 3 months.
Idaho, I think Orlando's next, and then back in Oregon for the 20th birthday, the farewell, kind of.
Yeah,
Always be part of it, but yeah.
very cool. As for me, and for those listening, like I went to the one in Arizona. I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot from the speakers there. Malcolm, a young entrepreneur speaker, he has some great speakers as well. So as an adult, I learned a lot from that. That's why I even said yes, to the offer. I had my boys get involved, because I'm like, if this young teen is doing this, and I want my team to do exactly something similar to him. I want to do something similar to him, right? As well. I'm going to say yes to this offer. So I learned a lot from that as well, right? And we're 8-figure entrepreneurs, and we still learn a lot from that, right? So so you can learn a lot from it. Your team can definitely learn a lot from that. And even if they're not teens, like my boys, they're not teens yet, right? Alex just turned 12, and Troy just turned 10 when we bought that offer. So they learned a lot from that. They're highly involved as well.
Yeah.
So check it out, teammastermindlive.com. And then if you for me, if you guys are if you're also wanting to learn how me and my wife um, built an 8-figure business without sacrificing our family, ourselves, our time, then I'm also going to invite you to our Dream Life Dream Business Challenge. We run that every month at least, where we're going to walk people through how to build what we call an and life, not an or life. You can have this and that, go here and there, buy this and that. It doesn't have to, you don't have to choose family or success, right? How to build a business that's a prison, a palace, not a prison. How to actually, emancipate your time by leveraging and delegating, automating. So that's really what the Dream Life Dream Business Challenge is all about. We're living the transformation. So if you want to live how we live, you want to do what we do, you want to have what we have, you want to be who we have become, how we're actually living, and who we actually are, that we show up every single day in our life, in our business, in our relationships, then the Dream Life Dream Business Challenge is actually something you want to check out as well. So the link for that is actually going to be below as well. So Malcolm, appreciate you, my friend. Say hi to your parents for me as well. They're great parents. Where they definitely, your family is also an inspiration to us, for us to be as a family as well. So
Yeah, our
appreciate you
families are
having,
so aligned for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, thank you for
100%.
having me on. This is
Yeah,
amazing.
appreciate it. All right, Malcolm, have a great rest of the day. Bye bye.